about to unfold.
A pizza was ordered on the Domino's app to that residence.
But the homeowner who lives here at Watercrest Road in Jonesboro tells police she didn't order a pizza. Police say Domino's driver Syed Ayarinde was greeted with two guns when he attempted to make his pizza delivery.
The driver, Mr. Saidi Arende, came out with the pizza. When he got there, he was approached by two black males who robbed him at gunpoint.
Detectives say one of those men with a gun was Tyler Grant. Detective Moore says once Grant and his partner in crime took the pizza, they went further.
They told him to give him everything. He gave him the car keys to his 2011 Volkswagen Jetta, which was approximately worth $15,000. Once he gave him the keys, the other person came back and said, "Give me your phone."
Police say as the robbers drove away, they fired a shot towards the Domino's driver that can be heard on the neighbor's Ring camera.
All right, based on the evidence and testimony presented, I find that there is probable cause to bind overall charges.
Monday, robbery suspect Grant went before a Clayton County magistrate judge. And that stolen car was actually spotted in Henry County. Police there pursued it. There was a crash. Grant was arrested, but that second suspect got away. We are reporting live in Clayton County. Angelique Proctor.
Kim Loeffler joins us from one of those businesses now. And Kim, how are people reacting to what happened this afternoon?
Well, the staff here at Gordon Family Dentistry are certainly shocked that this happened. As you can see, one of their windows was damaged in this gunfire has since been boarded up, but they're not the only ones. Waffle House, one of their windows also shattered, but it was the car care center on the other side of us here that caught the moments those shots rang out. It sounded like a war zone on Buford Highway Monday morning. Brookhaven police say multiple shots rang out around 5:45 when two groups shot at each other on the road. Bullets hitting nearby cars and businesses. Some shell casings landing near a daycare.
I was in bed. I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm dreaming or what's going on? But no.
Adriana Pastrana says her boss at Gordon Family Dentistry called her in on her day off to see what was going on. When she got there, she found glass everywhere.
We're still able to see patients. We just had to be really careful. We're going to clean up the mess and we're just good to go.
Officers have arrived on scene, located numerous shell casings in parking lots as well as the roadway. All parties appear to have left the scene before officers arrived.
There were no reports of injuries. Pastrana says despite the damage, she's thankful no one was here when it happened.
But I'm glad that everybody's okay, that nothing happening here, and our patients, no one was here. No one got hurt.
Brookhaven police are still looking for the people involved in the shooting. If you have any information, give investigators a call. For now, live in Brookhaven, Kim Loeffler, Fox 5 News.
All right, Kim, thank you so much. Russ?
It is time now for a look at Sky Fox traffic. Return car crash in Sandy Springs tonight. This is on Georgia 400 southbound past Northridge Road. Sky Fox 5 is over the scene. Police are there. 3 left lanes blocked, causing heavy delays. We're also seeing onlooker delays heading north from 285. Try using Roswell Road as an alternate. And 575 is still recovering from an earlier crash north at Ridgewalk Parkway. It's now a 37-minute trip time from I-75 up to 6's Road.
Well, we all know what you might face on Atlanta streets. You hit a bump and you want to personally apologize to your car, but sometimes that dip in the road can turn into a sinkhole, and that's what happened a few weeks ago on Pond, swallowing an SUV. City officials have now stepped up to make sure that doesn't happen again. Fox 5's Morse Diggs is live outside a city water facility with what they're doing, Morse.
Well, certainly a sinkhole can begin with the rupture of a water line. Now, experts tell me there is a measurement for potential danger zone. That measurement is 6 inches below grade. When City Hall managers saw this pavement failure that partially consumed a vehicle, they ordered stepped-up monitoring of streets. Is it possible to predict other hot spots for potential failure? top of mind, we're seeing other road asphalt depressions. Any concern here?
The depressions seem to be greater than about 6 inches, and so it's time to start investigating and see what's going on there.
An engineer describing what is happening on Joseph Lowry Boulevard.
If there's a nearby manhole, quite often that could be early signs of a sinkhole. One of the best tools and non-invasive ways to check that out would be to run the city's camera through that sewer line and just see if there's anything going on from inside the pipe.
Not far away is another Northwest street, Marietta Boulevard. Josh Rowan, who used to oversee city streets, saw this location as well.
They see a lot of activity, especially Marietta Street. And what happens is the continued loadings from the vehicles just continue to make that worse.
Once it starts to degrade, can what we saw a few weeks ago with the vehicle upside down in the sinkhole, can that happen pretty quickly?
Once it gets to be a large enough area that's been compromised, the failure is fairly catastrophic. I would encourage all of the people watching this story that if you start seeing the road just sinking, just simple depression, look around, you see a manhole. That's typically the sign of a greater issue underneath the road.
Now, the Atlanta Water Department sent crews out late this afternoon to check both of those locations. What do you do if you wind up in a sinkhole, your vehicle gets damaged? Well, contact your insurance company. The insurance company can file a claim against the city. Reporting from Northwest Atlanta, I'm Morris Diggs, Fox 5 News.
I saw an interview you did that there's some evidence out there, according to the interview I saw of you, that shows that cancer could be increased for those who take this vaccine?
This is very disturbing. We've seen now several reports, one by Singh and colleagues, University of Pittsburgh, showing that the S2 segment of the spike protein can interfere with tumor suppressor systems, P53 and BRCA. That was by modeling. Now Kevin McKernan has examined 2 vials of Pfizer, 2 of Moderna, and he found in one of the sets of vials what's called fragments of DNA, cDNA, importantly, a cancer-promoting segment called SV40. So if this is true and that some of the vials are contaminated with DNA from the manufacturing process, this could be very bad news because people are taking injections every 6 months.
Near the Travis Air Force Base in Fairfield, California. According to corporate filings, Flannery Group is a branch of Flannery Associates based in Delaware. This branch is registered as a foreign company in California. It is currently unknown who owns the company or what the land will be used for. But this recently introduced legislation aims to avoid a repeat of a 2021 incident when a China-based company bought farmland in South Dakota near a military base. Gallagher, who is also chairman of the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, also voiced his concerns about possible foreign adversaries owning U.S. land. He said, the United States cannot allow foreign adversaries like the Chinese Communist Party and its proxies to acquire real estate near sensitive sites like military bases or telecom infrastructure, potentially exploiting our critical technology and endangering our service members. In May, Biden proposed tighter controls over foreign land purchases by adding 8 additional military installations to the list for national security review.
Up next, a new study
is set to take place on August 23 in Milwaukee. The Republican National Committee, or RNC, set forward 3 criteria for candidates who want to participate, including a polling on donation threshold and a pledge to agree supporting the eventual party nominee. For the polling requirement, candidates have to get at least 1% in 3 national polls, or a combination of national polls and a poll from the early voting states. As of Sunday, 7 candidates met the polling requirements. Those are former President Trump, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, tech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, former Vice President Mike Pence, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. However, not all of them are meeting the donation threshold. The rule says candidates have to receive contributions from at least 40,000 individual donors, with at least 200 unique donors in 20 or more states. Mike Pence is the only candidate meeting the polling requirement but not the donation requirement. He commented on the issue on Sunday.
Having 40,000 individual donors, we're literally working around the clock. Got about a month to go. I'm confident that we'll be there. We're not offering kickbacks. We're not offering gift cards. We're not even offering soccer tickets. We're just asking people for their support.
In an attempt to meet the strict donation criteria, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum offered $20 gift cards in return for campaign donations of as little as $1. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez offered a chance to see Argentine soccer legend Lionel Messi's first game for Miami. Meanwhile, Trump previously said he might boycott the debate and hold a competing event instead. During his 2016 campaign, Trump also boycotted the final GOP gathering before the Iowa caucuses and instead held his own campaign event. Ariane Pastar, NTD News.
Details. So, Melina, what's the goal of this Wednesday's hearing?
The goal with this hearing is to shed light on if there's been transparency or if the government has been lying to both Congress and the American people for decades about unidentified anomalous phenomena.
We've had a heck of a lot of pushback about this hearing. We've had members of Congress who fought us. We've had members of the intelligence community and also the Pentagon. Even NASA backed out on us. There are a lot of people who don't want this to come to light.
One of the three witnesses is a former Pentagon intelligence officer who's now a whistleblower. His name is David Grush, and Grush says that the government right now has in its possession a number of what he describes as non-human vehicles, and that there are indications that there could be extraterrestrial life forms, which is contrary to the government's stance that we are the only life form.
AARO has found no credible evidence thus far of extraterrestrial activity, off-world technology, or objects that defy the known laws of physics.
Are there agreements between non-human intelligences and the American government?
I think that's a question that I would like to know all the details of as well.
Grush has handed over classified information to Congress and the intelligence community inspector general, who says Grush is credible. This is a topic that both Democrats and Republicans care deeply about.
Most of this data is classified and available to the public.
And there is a bipartisan effort to make this information public. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer introduced a bill that would declassify UFO records, and he reportedly plans to introduce this bill as an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, which is expected to come to the floor for a vote later this week. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Melina Weiskup.
That we work on, as I said, both dealing with the differences and seeing if we can cooperate. That's the way we're approaching it. I think it's the responsible thing to do.
Meanwhile, Australia's Sydney Harbour welcomed the arrival of the USS Canberra. It's the first U.S. Navy ship to be commissioned in a foreign port. The USS Canberra officially joined the U.S. Navy's active fleet at a ceremony on Saturday. The combat ship is named after a Royal Australian Navy cruiser that was sunk in 1942. It was then supporting U.S. Marines landing on Guadalcanal. The U.S. ambassador to Australia said the weekend gathering was more than just a ceremony. It offered a chance to reflect on shared values between the two allies.
Protecting freedom, preserving the stability and prosperity of the rules-based order, and doing the daily work of building a more just and peaceful world. So that's what Americans and Australians have been doing together for more than 100 years.
Wherever USS Canberra is sailing, and whatever challenges her crew may face, they are ready, as reinforced by this warship's motto. And what is that?
The ceremony came amid biannual U.S.-Australia military exercise known as Talisman Sabre. The two-week event is being held across Australia and involves simulated land battles, air battles, and amphibious landings. That's as concerns grow over Beijing's influence in the region. As tensions rise with Beijing, Taiwan held its annual air raid drills in its northern cities today. The drill is designed to practice defense against a possible invasion by Communist China.
I think the war could really happen, and when it happens, the situation will be quite different from the drill. I feel that everyone is doing their best to be accommodating, so I don't know what it would be like in case war really happens.
As the sirens sounded, towns and cities, including the capital Taipei, were closed for up to half an hour. Police directed passers-by and cars to take shelter by the roadside. Residents were told to stay indoors. A series of military drills will be carried out across Taiwan this week as part of an annual military exercise. Just days ahead of the event, China sent nearly 40 warplanes towards the island. Beijing claims Taiwan is a breakaway province and has threatened to annex the island by force. That's despite never having ruled the democratic island. The Biden administration is considering new controls on the semiconductor chip industry in the tech war with China. This could have a huge impact, according to Anders Corr, publisher of the Journal of Political Risk and principal at Core Analytics. I spoke with him to find out more. Anders Corr, thank you for joining us again.
Thank you.
Anders, first of all, tell us about the significance of these chips.
Chips are going to power increasingly everything in the future, whether it's military technology, artificial intelligence. They're very, very important to, I mean, we see on the battlefield of Ukraine already that there's chips are being used in everything from drones to missiles.
And why is the Biden administration considering new controls and outbound investment restrictions on the chips industry?
China is increasingly belligerent. Russia is obviously belligerent in Ukraine. So the Biden administration is trying to limit the chips that these two countries and some other adversary countries receive and can use on the battlefield or elsewhere, even their economies, because it's strengthening their economy. Although they don't say that.
And how could this technology be used on the battlefield?
The chips go into, for example, GPS systems, decisions. When you have loitering munitions, which are basically drones that hang out in the sky looking for a target. When they find a target, they attack. Some of these munitions don't have a person in the loop. They just have a signature that they're looking for. For example, a visual signature of a tank. When they see it, they attack.
Now, the New York Times called the potential of these controls an act of war. What do you make of that?
China's biggest exports now, more than, imports, China's biggest imports now, more than oil, are chips. So it's a very important part of China's economy. They make electronics. Chips go into everything from toasters to cars. You get hundreds of chips in some consumer electronics products. It's the future of AI. So China really needs these things. And export controls, especially when it's coordinated with countries like Japan, Netherlands, and Taiwan, will have a serious impact on China's economy and future military abilities.
And there are some companies that are lobbying against these export controls. What do you say to them?
They want to prioritize profits over national security, and I think that's ethically inappropriate when we're dealing with totalitarian and genocidal regimes like Russia and China. I think they need to see the bigger picture in terms of ethics, national security, and follow the lead of the voters, basically, the U.S. government.
And you've compared these controls to the U.S. embargo of oil on Japan before the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Are we really in a 1941 type situation?
That's the concern. We could be. We don't want to risk being in a 1941 situation, although we're being forced to risk that because of China's belligerence. So we need to put controls on China, and those controls may cause a war. I mean, we have to realize that, but there's really no other way around it. We can't allow China to get stronger.
Anders Corr, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think it's premature to talk about lifting many of the sanctions and controls that were put in place by the Trump administration. So I think that shows a high degree of continuity, even if some of the stylistic dimensions are perhaps a bit different from the past administration.
Roy, some are raising concerns about the White House's pushing back on certain provisions in the NDAA that come across as being, I guess, tougher on China in certain regards, such as with fentanyl, more transparency with the Pentagon and who they work with on government funding projects. Do you think these are valid concerns?
Well, the industry, American industry, is really putting a lot of pressure on the administration. It's clear. And I think the approach that they're taking is to proceed perhaps methodically, so that they don't lose parts of the coalition along the way. The discussion about outbound investment controls has been going on for over a year. We're still awaiting the instructions and plan from the Biden administration. I think that's indicative of the pressure that they're feeling from industry. But they're going to get something. It might not be exactly the most ambitious plan, but we're going to get something, and it's going to be important and I think help to make a difference.
Right. What do you think the national security approach should be toward a company like Huawei, who doesn't always or really ever abide by normal rules? Is there any way for us to cooperate?
It's hard to imagine that there's a way to cooperate with Huawei. We're several years into the limitations that were placed on Huawei by the Trump administration. I think that's it's had a really great impact on the company itself and its global operations, and a diminished footprint here in the U.S., eventually leading to no footprint, is absolutely the way to go. It's hard to imagine any pathway in which Huawei components of any sort were ever part of U.S. DoD networks. That day is gone.
Roy, one of the witnesses at the hearing that I mentioned at the top of the interview, Mr. Daniel Crittenbrink, at the hearing there, he sort of dodged the question from the chairman, Chairman Gallagher, about whether he was advising the White House to hold back on sanctions. I want to play the tape and get your reaction on the other side.
Have you ever advised any senior U.S. government official to delay sanctions under the Uyghur Human Rights and Policy Act?
What I have advised is that we will carry out our obligations under the law, but I'm not going to comment on the details of our internal deliberations.
So, Roy, Congress and the White House have taken multiple steps to sanction CCP officials. Could more be done to enforce current sanctions, and should more sanctions be on the table?
I think the possibility of sanctions might be as impactful as the actual sanction themselves in terms of shaping behavior in the PRC. So there's certainly other steps that can be taken, and I think most would be supportive of that. I thought what Secretary Crittenbrink was doing was saying, I'm an assistant secretary. There are several levels above me, and so it would be out of line maybe for me to actually take on a question like that that would review our internal deliberations. It's just not my place as an assistant secretary to tell you that. That's really a cabinet level official who could offer that sort of perspective. That's my take.
Roy Camphausen, thank you so much for joining us.
I think Musk loves the X. We've seen it from SpaceX to Tesla to other parts of the Musk empire. This is really a rebrand. It's trying to turn Twitter into a super app. Now, it's something advertisers, users are going to push back on, but as we know, Musk goes to the beat of a different drum. And this is just another move in that Musk playbook. Could backfire, but when it comes to Twitter, there's 44 billion reasons that this is at risk, given what Musk paid for Twitter.
People around the country also weighed in.
Elon Musk, it's his company. If he wants to rebrand it, he should, because he can do whatever he wants with it.
Why would you even lose a branding that's as important as Twitter? Like, people regularly use tweet, retweet, like things like quote tweets, stuff like that.
I think I like the Bluebird better. It's called Twitter, so it makes you think of a bird. So, birds tweet.
Since Musk bought Twitter in October, the company has changed its business name to X Corp. Musk, a billionaire, has a vision to create a super app.
I mean, I think he's building off of what WeChat did in China, and I don't think it's going to work at all because WeChat also got its launch off of the fact that it was a completely free platform. The things that he's doing already with Twitter Blue is already going to make it less accessible, and people aren't going to want to be a part of it because he just is making it a paid platform. And the reason why WeChat took off is because it was an everything app that was free for everyone to use.
WeChat.
I don't like that idea just because, it kind of reminds me
a Chinese
of WeChat,
app.
the big social social app in in China and other Asian countries. It's kind of like one app does everything. You rely too much on it, because if that app goes bad, then it's like, oh, you got to start over with something else. I like having multiple apps to do multiple things.
Musk said he wanted to change Twitter's previous logo and polled millions of his followers asking whether they would like changing the site's color scheme from blue to black. In Santa Clara, California, David Lamb, NTD News.
Strikes of the Swedish parliament. She faced charges for blocking the path of oil trucks at Malmo Harbor on June 19th. Although she admitted to defying the police order, she pleaded not guilty, saying she acted out of necessity, advocating for urgent climate action. As a result of the court's ruling,
Ego
was
terrorist.
to pay 1,500 Swedish crowns, or about $140 US. She had to pay about $100 more to the Crimes Victims Fund. The fine was determined based on her reported income. The maximum sentence for disobeying a police order could have been 6 months in prison. Coming up, discarded food products are often still